Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kevin Plays Disc Golf. Today we have a playthrough and course review from the Hollows North Disc Golf Course in Manchester, New Hampshire. My name is Kevin, and I play disc golf. Filming on course for this video was done on October 5th, 2024. There are a couple different options of how to get to the course depending on exactly where you're coming from. If you're coming from the north, you'll most likely be traveling on Interstate 293 South. You'll want to take exit 4 for US Route 3 and Queen City Avenue. Take a right at the end of the off-ramp, and after about 1,000 feet, take a right onto Queen City Avenue and Route 3 towards downtown. Stay in the right lane, and after going across the river, take the second right, which is a sharp right corner onto Brown Avenue. After about 3/4 of a mile, the road will appear to end at a stop sign with a small narrow road straight ahead that goes through a break in a chain link fence with a playground on the left corner of the road. Continue straight onto that small road. After about 500 feet, the road will appear to be a dead end. However, just before the road ends, there will be a large gravel parking lot on the right. This is where you should park. If you are coming from the west on Route 101, continue on to Interstate 293 South. If you're coming from the south on the Everett Turnpike, take the exit onto Interstate 293 and 101 East. From where 101 and 293 come together, take the first exit, exit 2, onto Brown Ave. You'll want to take a left in the opposite direction of the airport. If you're coming from the east via either Interstate 93 or Route 101, go on to Route 293 North at the southern end of I-293 to exit 2, Brown Ave, and take a right at the off-ramp. There is a bit of an odd intersection at the first light after going under I-293. You'll want to be in the left lane to continue straight on Brown Avenue. After about 1/4 of a mile, you'll see the parking lot for the Hollows South Disc Golf Course. If you are playing the full 36 holes, I would recommend starting on the north course, as there is a much shorter walk from the parking lot to T1 and from the basket of hole 18 on the north course than there is on the south course. There will be a link in the description of my playthrough of the south course. After passing the parking lot for the Hollows South, you'll see a large cemetery on the left. Continue for about 3/4 of a mile and take the first left after the cemetery ends onto Mitchell Street. Take the first left through the gate on the small narrow road with the playground on the left corner. After about 500 feet, the road will appear to be a dead end. However, just before the road ends, there will be a large gravel parking lot on the right. This is where you should park. If you would like to practice, when I played, there were several practice baskets set up in the softball field next to the parking lot. You can get to the field by going through a path through the edge of the woods near the long tee for hole 1. There were enough baskets there that it would have been possible to make your own pitch and putt course, and would be a great place for a first introduction to disc golf before going on to the main course. Under no circumstances should you throw discs in the cemetery. I played the course in early fall and it was dry. There are a few places where I would expect the ground to be muddy and the creeks and gullies to have more water in them, but I don't think that there are likely to be any additional places that are bad to end up. If you're playing the full 36-hole loop with the south course as well, be aware that there are several places on the south course that are more likely to get muddy or swampy than on the north course. When I played, all of the baskets were in the long position and there were no baskets in the short locations. I played the long tees on all holes, though it seemed like the short tees were the more popular option. Rules regarding alcohol and tobacco are unclear. If you know for sure, post in the comments below. There were trash cans and porta potties in the parking lot and near the softball field when I played. However, there were not any on the course. Please carry out all trash that you bring in. Dogs are allowed, however must remain leashed and they must be cleaned up after. Additionally, they are not allowed on the softball field or in the cemetery. The disc golf course is entirely separate from the other fields aside from the practice baskets and warm-up area being on the softball field. My suspicion is that the baskets will not be there in the spring when the softball field is in use, but other than that, everyone I saw in the park was there to play disc golf. Both the North and South courses do have tournaments relatively frequently, so it is best to check before you go if you're playing on a weekend to make sure the course is not being used. If you're playing the full 36-hole combined North and South course, my suggestion is to start here on the North course, play holes 1 to 11 on the North course, then go to hole 12 on the South course, play the entire South course back to hole 11, and then return to the North course on hole 12. Basket for hole 18 and the tee for hole 1 on the South course are close together to make for an easy transition. I'll have my overall review of the course at the end of the video. Be sure to post your comments as to your thoughts on what looks fun and where you think the problem areas are. Now we'll get to the entrance to the parking lot to see how to get started on course. Watch out for the ruts in the entrance to the parking lot.
All right, today is October 4th, 2024. We're at the Hollows Disc Golf Course North in Manchester, New Hampshire. So we are a little bit past where Google Maps sends you down this very small side road. Once you get just past it, it does open up into this large parking lot here. Just something to note is that there are some significant ruts in this parking lot. So you just take it easy, don't bottom your car out. And just so we know, the starting spot for disc golf course is opposite, straight through that little gap there. And there are some practice baskets on the field to the right for putting practice. Here we are at the kiosk for the Hollows Disc Golf Course North. I'll be playing the long tee, long basket today. There are several different options. Just so you know where we're going, if we are at the kiosk, the short tee is immediately to the left of the kiosk, and the long tee is, if we just walk around here, immediately to the right of the kiosk. Hole 1 from the long tee to the long basket is a 331-foot par 3, dogleg right. To get to the basket, it's pretty much a straight shot down fairway. It is significantly downhill, but you basically want to get as far down as you can and start moving to the right. Here we are at the end of the landing zone, looking back at the two tee pads. We can see both the short tee and the long tee from here. I've just been informed that currently there's only one basket placement for each hole, so I believe they are in the long tee positions. But if we turn around here, we can see the basket directly in front of us there. All right, here we ended up a little short after the second shot. The basket does drop off downhill behind the basket, so this is a little bit of a death putt, so we'll see what happens here. All right, so we ended up with a 4 here on the first hole. Not too bad, not totally unexpected. So to get from here to the second tee, we sort of have our back to the woods, so the tee box is pretty much right angle to my right. If we turn to our right a little bit, take a brief walk over here, through this little path, and here we have the tee pad for hole 2. This is the short tee here, and then if we take a right, we can go to the long tee right up here. Here we are at the short tee pad. From the short tee pad, we can see the basket, which is straight, it's very much downhill. If we look between those two sort of thinner trees, we can see the white basket. And with the way the shadows are, it's a little bit hard to see from here, but we can see it. We cannot see this from the long tee, but we basically go directly over the short tee to get to the basket. Hole 2 is a 343-foot par 3, significantly downhill. You cannot see the hole from the long tee, however you can see it from the short tee, so we will show some video from up there. From the long tee to the long basket, all of the holes are placed at the long basket today. So we want to go over the left side of the short tee, and that sends us down in the correct direction of the short basket. This is kind of, for me, right-hand, forehand player, this is kind of a S-shaped bend over the tee and then around the tree that's just beyond the tee that we can see over the left edge of the tee. If you have a spotter here, it might be nice just to send somebody up to the area of the short tee if you're playing from the back tees, just to watch exactly where the disc ends up. All right, something to note while we are down here by the basket is that just past the basket there is a pretty significant drop off. It's not huge, it probably only drops off 8 to 10 vertical feet, but there is definitely a rollaway possibility. So here I'm going to make sort of a half-hearted putt attempt while acorns are raining down on me, so that if I end up going long or if I end up missing, it's not going to go far enough to roll down the hill. We took our 3 here with our back to the tee. If we turn to the left, you can see there's a path here. All of the holes I've seen so far have these nice little signs leading you to the direction of the next tee here. It seems the more popular option is to play the short tees rather than the long tees. I play the long tees just because that's kind of what I'm going to do here. But everybody else I've seen here has been playing the short tees. So here we are at the tee for hole 3. And for this one, there is only one tee, so they both play off the same pad, both short and long. Hole 3 is a 192-foot par 3, dead straight ahead. You cannot see the basket from the tee. However, we'll take a little walk to the right and show you where it is. It is immediately behind that cluster of large pine trees just in front of us. I believe it's immediately behind the sort of second one in the middle that's just poking out to the left. And here we are to the right of the tee box, or about 20 feet to the right. We can see the hole sticking out from the side of the trees there. See, again, it's just kind of a tough shot to get in there. Even though I normally play forehand, I think I'm going to have to backhand this hole just because there's no way to get at the basket from the left side moving to the right. Here we are just in front of the cluster of trees looking back at the tee for hole 3. If we turn around, take a quick look here, we can see there is some marsh area here and some OB rope wind out. This is not played as out of bounds right now. However, you can see it is pretty marshy here, and it has been relatively dry. It did sprinkle a little bit last night, but my guess is that a big reason for that OB line is that in the spring it is probably very wet and muck and marsh in there that you want to avoid anyway. So I ended up going into the woods, had here at a 2, so let's see what I can do for a putt for 3 from here. Nope, but drop in for 4. With our back to the basket at the hole 3, we can see there's a little arrow, and up there we have a sign pointing towards the 4th tee. And just beyond this, we have the short tee for hole 4. And then just to the right of that, we have the long tee for hole 4. Hole 4 is a 321-foot par 3. It looks like here they have the basket set up at the short tee, though you can't see it from this height. If you're standing up, you can see the basket. You can sort of see it here, but it's a little bit clearer when you're actually standing up in the middle of the long tee pad here. If you look to the left of that large tree just in front of us, and there's a small tree just in front of and to the right of that large tree, the basket is directly through that small narrow gap between the 2 trees. All right, here we are between 2 large fairway trees, and if we turn around, you can see the basket is sort of tucked in behind that small cluster of trees. I'm actually sort of in the bank beyond after my second shot. First shot hit a tree, second shot just went a little long, but I think is possible shot for par from there. Behind the basket at hole 5, we can see there's a little creek running through. Again, my guess is that this is a lot bigger in the summer and spring than it is right now. I ended up actually in there, but it's shallow enough to play casual water from there. So took my 4 here. To get to the next tee, we walk sort of upstream parallel to the river and move up a little further. And just to confirm, we did play the long baskets on hole 4, not the short baskets. So there's a sign for the 5th tee. And if we continue up this path a little bit, have right in front of us the short tee for hole 5. And then if we go to our left, we have the long tee for hole 5. Hole 5 is a 329-foot par 3, dog leg from left to right. Here, if we look through the gap of trees, through the one just across the creek and then one further up, pretty much straight ahead, we can see the basket. We're on the left side of the tee pad in the left front corner, so if you stand here, you can see the basket from here. There are a couple of options to play this. You can either go left to right, or there is a gap on the right side if you want to go backhand through some of the trees. It's a little bit of a narrower gap, but it is possible to get to the basket from either direction. Here we are looking back at the tee pad, and if we swing around to the left here, you can see it opens up a lot after this big group of trees. And you can see we have the basket right in front of us. I think I'm fairly close up there on my second shot after going way right off the tee. And let's see if we can make a par putt around the tree. Nice, I'll take that as a good scramble for 3 from where I was. So with our back to the tee at hole 5, if we take a left-hand turn and go up this little walkway, we do want to be a little bit careful of discs coming at us, but we can take a little walk up here. And here we have the short tee pad for hole 6, and just beyond, next to that tree, is the long tee pad for hole 6. All right, so here we are at the blue tee for hole 6, 375-foot par 3. From the blue tee, it does go right to left, and there is a creek on the left side that is out of bounds. So make sure you do not end up in that creek. But as long as you can make it through this first gap, it looks like it does kind of open up going both directions past. All right, here we are sitting at the bench for the short tee for hole 6, a 375-foot par 3. From up here, from sitting on the bench, I'm on the left side of the bench. We can see the basket directly behind the small tree directly in front of us. It looks like that tree is about 15 feet in front of the basket. You can see the basket poking out around both sides of the tree, so it's not too far past that. Here we are about 150 feet off the blue tee, and if we turn around, we can see that this sort of leftmost line of trees opens up to the basket right in front of us. There's a path on the right side as well if you end up further right. I am way right from here, so it's going to be tough for me to scramble for 3, but on a hole this length, 4 is kind of what I'm expecting here. After taking a 4 at hole 6, with our back to the tee, we can take a left, and we have a small bridge to cross. And this is the creek, so although the creek is out of bounds, this time of year, it's kind of tough to tell exactly where out of bounds is. And up here, we have the sign for the 7th tee. And we can continue on, and this spits us out right at the long tee for hole 7. Hole 7 is a 299-foot par 3, dogleg right. Out of bounds is water. There is a small creek on the right side that continues upstream from the creek on hole 6. There's also a pond on the left side above the hump that we can see sort of off in the distance there. The shot does go quite a bit to the right. The landing zone does open up quite a bit once you get past this initial gap here. So I'll give you a better shot from a little bit further up, and you can see the short tees directly in front of the long tees, about 30 or 40 feet ahead. From about 10 feet to the left of the short tees, if we look through the right gap here, we can see the basket from here. I bounced off a couple trees, so I'm not too far up past this. And maybe we can zoom in on the squirrel that's running around. There are a lot of squirrels out here today. And here we are looking back up at the tee from sort of the height of the crest of the hill. The pond over here is actually pretty dried out there, so today there's probably no out of bounds over there, but in the spring there definitely will be. And if we swing around, there is the basket right in front of us. Can we make a par putt? Hooray! Circle 2 putt. I will take that. So with our back to the tee at hole 7, we can grab our disc out of the basket, and to get to hole 8, we just walk a little bit past here. We are at the tee box for hole 8, and these are the long tees. The short tees are a little bit further up. Hole 8 is a 322-foot par 3, very severe right to left dog leg. So you cannot see the basket from either the blue tee where we are or the white tee just ahead of us. You actually have to go down the crest of the hill that's sort of not too far past the white tee before you can even get a glimpse of the basket. The basket is way off to the left. Again, it's probably in line with the small tree that's just past the bench for the white tee in that direction, and it is fairly heavily guarded. So it's very easy to go long here. It does drop off quite a bit, and not just go long, but go long and end up in the brush and woods past where the fairway is. All right, here we are looking back at the tees, and here's sort of the crest of the hill. I laid up short, didn't go as far as I wanted, but that's actually safe there. And if we take a look here, we can see the basket just peeking out of that tree or cluster of trees in front of us through that gap. Again, if we are to the right, it goes downhill quite a bit. I think I'm going to have a gap to at least get close to the basket from where I am, but this is definitely one that if you get a 3 here, I'll be very happy with it. Can we make a miracle putt for 3? No. All right, after taking our 4 with our back to the fairway at hole 8, we continue past the basket and sort of bear left a little bit. There is a sign for the 9th tee, and we can continue on here. A nice little bridge to cross. Go over the bridge and bear right, and at the top of this hill is the long tee pad for hole 9. And then just a little bit further up there, you can see the bench for the short tees for hole 9. Hole 9 is a 496-foot par 4. It does go to the right, dogleg left to right. The first shot is straight ahead. If you can see the sign for the 10th tee off in the distance, that's a straight shot. That's the direction you want to go. If you can get out that far, which my guess is most people can't, that's probably a solid 350 plus feet to where that sign is. But if you go in that direction, then from there, your second shot, you can go off to the right. The further up the fairway you go, the more it opens up and the easier of a second shot you will have. Here we are about 50 feet in front of the white tees, and from here we can get our first glimpse at the basket. If we look at the gap that is between these 3 trees on the right and look just past that, sort of follow that as the right edge of the gap, we can see the basket directly ahead right through there. And also on the side we can see the same sign for the 10th tee that we wanted to aim for initially. I'm a little bit further up ahead and to the right here. After my second shot, after my first shot, I hit a tree. All right, so I drilled a 30-foot putt to save 5 on hole 9. So with our back to the tee from hole 9, if we take a left, go past the basket, we can see we have the sign for the 10th tee up here. And if we continue down, take a left just after this tee, if we come down into this gully, to the right we have the short tee, and to the left we have the long tee. Hole 10 is a 353-foot par 3. It is pretty much straight ahead, although the basket is over the crest of that hill. If you see the two large pine trees off in the distance on the right, ideally you want to be to the left of those and to the right of the pine tree that's a little bit closer. So if you can hit that gap and keep going, you're going to be in pretty good shape. If you miss those pine trees, the large pine trees, there is a lot of area that opens up on both sides past them. So as long as you can make it up to that point, you're going to have a pretty clear second shot and at least a shot at a par from there. Here we are at the crest of the hill looking back at the two tees, and there are these two large pine trees that are on the right side as you're looking from the tee. And if we turn around here, we can see the basket tucked in behind that large pine tree on the left. So we do want to end up going to the right of those two large pine trees. It's actually fairly open over there. So I think in this case, if you are either right or left, it's fairly open here. So it's got a couple different options. You can kind of see that around 10, the basket opens up quite a bit. So as long as you can get it close, you'll have a putt. I bounced off many trees on this hole, so I ended up with a 5. But with our back to the tee to get to hole 11, if we take a right, you can follow this path. There's a sign for the 11th tee, and we can continue over the crest of this hill. A little bit further up here. And here we have, in this little depression, the long tee for hole 11. And then at the crest of the next hill, we have the short tee for hole 11. Hole 11 is a 407-foot par 3. This is one that is much more difficult from the blue tees than from the white tees. There's no added danger of losing a disc. It's just much more difficult. So ideally, you need to go to the crest of this hill and then take a hard left at the top of the hill. And it does go downhill, so the basket is significantly below where the tee box is.
Unfortunately, I have lost the footage from the white tee. However, if you go to the crest of the next hill and look to the left, the basket is clearly visible from there.
So after a miracle second shot, I am just behind this pine tree here. It's about a 15-foot putt, but it is a death putt. As you can see, that the hill drops away very steeply behind, to the right, and to the left of the hole. So hope I don't miss this one. I bounced it off the cage on my third shot and thankfully it didn't roll too far down the hill. I had about a 10-foot putt back up the hill for 4. From the basket of hole 11 to get to hole 12 on the north course, we need to take a U-turn and go back that way. However, if we continue down this path,
the hole 11 basket is where you can go to the south course. Hole 7 is down this path straight ahead, while there's a shortcut just to the left of the basket to go to the tee for hole 12.
with our back to the tee, again, we need to walk past the basket, go downhill, like we go down a gully and then back up a gully. Here we have a path. Looks like we go left.
If we go left, we can get to the hole 12 south course tee, and if we go right, we can get to the hole 7 south course tee. At this time, there is only one tee for each of these holes, so that is where you'll be playing the south course from.
So if you are playing the full 36 from the north side, welcome back. And we will continue to hole 12 on the north side. We're basically going back up the fairway here. Here is the sign that I missed earlier, which says 12th tee this way. We go across this little gully, across the little bridge, and go up this hill, and we are at the blue tee for hole 12. And then the white tee is just ahead of us to the left. Hole 12 is a 453-foot par 4. It does dogleg right for the second shot, Where the basket is, it's pretty much in line of the second tree on the right through that gap, that if it was gone there would be a gap there. That's pretty much the direction of where the hole is. It is very heavily wooded there, so the safer play is to go out through the fairway on the left side and try and get it as far up there as you can to have a clean second shot at the basket. Here we are about 250 feet off the blue tee. I'm a little short next to that tree. I sort of went through the trees, bounced off a couple of them, so not as far as I would like, but still playable from there. And if we spin around here, we are right next to the kids' tee. There have been some of these around as well. But from here, we have a clear shot at the basket. We can see through the two trees off in the distance on the right. And again, the kids' tee, it says it's 189 feet from here. So that's about the distance from here to the basket. We'll see what we can do from here and how close we can get. That from where I was about as good as I could have hoped for. Again, it looks like we actually have a birdie putt here, so yay, I will take that. Yeah, I'm inside 15 feet from the basket from here, so hopefully I don't blow this putt for birdie. Dead center. Yeah, that's by far the best hole I've played today. Birdie, and even a short putt for birdie, not a miracle one, so I'm very happy with that. So with our back to the tee at hole 12, to get to hole 13, we make a right turn. And we have a 13th tee sign ahead of us here, there. And we can continue up the path. And we go a little bit further. And right up top here, we have the long tee for hole 13. Hole 13 is a 336-foot par 3, downhill, straight ahead. If we look between the two small trees in the fairway, we can see the top of the basket. If you're standing up, you can see the whole basket from here. The white tees are ahead and to the right of the blue tees. And the idea with this hole is hope to hit a gap and make it down in the area of the basket. Something to note here, there's a pretty deep gorge just in front of the basket. It's probably about 10 feet down. So my guess is that this is where the basket was originally intended. Actually, there it is right there. But the long basket is further and across that. So again, quite a bit more difficult to get at from there. So I'm going to have a very long approach from probably 125 feet for my third shot. So if I get a 4 here, I will take that and be happy. With our back to the tee at 13, I bounced off every tree, ended up with a 5 on this hole. So with our back to the tee at hole 13, we can go a little bit past the basket. We have the 14th tee sign, and immediately to our left, we have the 14th tee right here, and squirrel in the woods. Hole 14 is a 236-foot par 3, downhill. The basket is hidden in the trees. If we look to the left of the V-shaped tree and to the right of the others, we can see the basket peeking out from behind one of the other trees. We can only see this if we're standing on the right edge of the tee pad. If you're a little bit further right, it's an easier viewing, but the main direction to go here is going to be stay on the left and play a left to right shot near the basket. Squirrel. I ended up left of the basket, but it skipped all the way through, so I'm at the same distance as the basket. If it had been on target, it would have been perfect, but I still have a long potential birdie putt, like middle of circle 2 long, but I've made longer before. And also to point out, the short tee is a raised tee on top of the log pile on the right here. So again, that's about 20 feet shorter, but an elevated basket surrounded by trees, so I'm not sure that that's any easier than longer basket placement here. Let's see what I can do for birdie from here. Well, that'll be a drop-in par anyway. After taking our drop-in 3 with our back to the tee, we can take a right And follow this path here. And here we have another sign for the next tee. Those are very helpful for the most part, as long as you pay attention to them. And if we continue on, go down this path a little bit, and just in front of us is the tee for hole 15. Now, the last couple of holes have only had one tee spot. This one we do appear to be going back to 2 tee placements. So one up here on the right is the long tee, and then if you take that path on the left, the short tee is just in front of the long tee on the left. Hole 15 is a 322-foot par 3, dogleg right. From the blue tees, if you squint and look at just the right angle, you can see the basket sort of through the narrow gap on the right that looks like it's going through brush. Very difficult to see from here, but that's the direction it is between sort of the what looks like kind of a descending gap on the right side there. The main play is the gap on the left, and then go from left to right once you're out there. Here we are about 160 feet off the blue tee boxes, and we can see the white tee boxes there. We turn around, we have the kids' tee box right in front of us. I am a good ways up there. Somehow I missed all the trees and ended up with a reasonable shot. But from right here, if we look straight ahead, you can see that the basket is tucked behind that lightly colored tree. And I will point that out. It looks like you do not want to be long or right of the basket, because there's a lot of thick, heavy brush, and although I don't know what's behind it, it's probably not good. All right, for my second shot, I just decided to lay up and had a drop in for 3, so I'm pretty happy with that. So again, at 15 with our back to the tee, if we go past into the left of the basket and we look up here, we can see the sign for the 16th tee. And we have a nice little bridge to cross. Again, it has been fairly dry, so my guess is that this is a lot wetter in the spring than it is right now. And if we take a right down this path here, we have the tee for hole 16. Hole 16 is a 438-foot par 4, slight dogleg left. The hole does go pretty straight for a while and then gradually go downhill to the left. It does go quite a ways downhill, and one thing you cannot see from either tee is that there's a pretty significant gully after the crest of this first hill. So I'll get another camera shot from where the stump straight ahead is. I'm not sure if you can see it from this picture, but it's directly in line with sort of the big tree off in that middle gap in the distance. And from there you can get a glimpse of the basket, but it is down to the left of that stump. All right, so here we are just behind the stump. It is very difficult to see, but beyond that line of trees on the left and just to the left of the last one on the right that's kicked out, there's a small gap there. You can see the flag and the basket from there. Again, with this lighting, it's difficult to see in the video, but you can see it from here. My tee shot bounced off a tree, and I'm about 30 feet to the left of here, so but you can also get an idea if we stand up of looking down in that gorge, and there is the bridge in front of us. So here we are on the left part of the fairway, but we are in the fairway. I'm here after my second shot. My first shot hit a tree, my second shot came out to this point, so I'm pretty happy with having gotten it down this far. I do have a very long look at my third shot, but if I can make it through the trees, I should at least have a good shot at a par 4 here. Let's see what I can do. Yikes, that's going to be a long putt for 4 from there. All right, well, I had a left side chain out from putt from about 30 feet, so I fell out, so I had to drop in for 5, but we'll take that. So with our back to the tee, Looking at the basket of 16, we can follow this trail to the left, and I believe that's the basket for hole 2. Follow this around for hole 16. Here we have the sign for the 17th tee. Little bridge to cross over. And here we are at the tee for hole 17. Hole 17 is a 433-foot par 5, mostly straight, little left bend and then a little right bend. So first shot, it's basically get it as far down there as you can, try and miss the trees, and hopefully you end up in the fairway. There are a couple gaps there that you have options to hit, but that's going to be the big thing on the tee shot, is just hitting one of the gaps. All right, here we are about 150 feet out, looking back at the tees. I'm just behind that tree after trying to go through the brush, and you can see that it really opens up quite a bit after we get past this 150-foot mark. We've got a couple options. I'm still not sure exactly where the basket is, but I think it's still somewhere a ways up there. I still have a long way to go to get there, as my tee shot did not go as far as I would have liked. So now we're up closer. We're probably about 175 feet from the basket. We've got a good look at where the basket is from here. Again, my second shot was better, though still went through the woods. I'm actually, again, probably about 30 feet left of here, middle of the fairway, but I should still have a clear shot at the basket to at least get close. As long as I miss all the trees, it should be an easy 5 from there, and if I have a really good upshot, maybe even a 4. Alternatively, I could try and take down a tree with my third shot. All right, I've officially decided that I have figured out how to play the Terra from 180 feet out and figured out how to play the skip. I've got about a 15-foot putt here to make back my par, so let's see what I can do here. Hooray, I finally made a putt. I will take that. So after taking our par 5 at hole 17, with our back to the tee, we can go straight past the basket and take a little walk up Break-In Chains Way. Nice little path here. Ooh, blue jay. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. As I mentioned, there's a lot of wildlife in this park, so yep, this is definitely the longest trek between holes from 17 back to 18 that we've had on this course. Now we start to go uphill, and at the crest of this hill we have the bench and the long tee for hole 18. All right, hole 18 is a 353-foot par 3, pretty much straight uphill. We are at the blue tees. The white tees are just ahead and to the right, tucked into the trees. I'm not sure you can see it in the video, but it's basically where that bright spot of sunshine is coming through. The basket is through the big gap on the left at the top of the hill. You can see it pretty easily from the tee. So that's where we want to be, and that's where we want to end our round, hopefully in not too many shots. Here at the green of 18, you'll notice that it is a raised basket, so kind of natural feature raised basket, kind of a death putt all the way around, no matter which way you come at it, likely roll away. If we're playing the short tees, it's not any better, same deal. It's going to be a tough shot to avoid a roll away. I'm down there in 2. I had the disc slip out of my hand on both shots, so if I get a 4 out of this, I'll be happy. POV for 4 on the last hole. All right, we will take that. So we can go and get our disc out of the basket. And to leave the course, we go up that trail that is past the basket to the left. And if we continue up past the basket to the left, follow this trail, go on a little further. This is actually quite a bit shorter than the walk from 17 to 18 was. You go around this corner, and at the top of this corner, we have the long tee for hole 1 where we started the round. And then if you want to go to the baseball fields, that right now they have a bunch of portable cages out there for practice. It's over that direction. And you can take the left past the first tee to leave the course.
I did not see any active upgrades to the course at the time of filming. However, the course is very frequently used and is well maintained. The thumbnail photo for this course is the approach to the basket for hole 13 from just before the creek. The bridge gives you a good idea of how deep the ravine at the approach is, and though it is indicated on the tee, it is much more prominent on this hole than similar markings on tee signs for other holes. It also helps that this was a beautiful fall day. My favorite hole was hole 7. This is one that I can't really explain why it's my favorite, though part of it may be due to being a left to right throw for me being a right-hand forehand player. It rewards accuracy off the tee, and though hitting a tree is bad, it is still possible to scramble from wherever you end up, and it's not going to cost multiple throws. Honorable mentions go to holes 2, 17, and 18. There isn't a single hole or two that stand out above the rest on this course, but there are a lot of high-quality holes here. My least favorite hole on the course is hole 8. With a par 3 from the long tees being 322 feet, the dogleg is so tight and so severe with no way to go straight for long enough to get close to the basket. The tee sign doesn't properly show how tight the corner really is. I don't see how it is possible to put a drive from the long tee within circle 2 without a lucky tree kick or lucky roll for anyone. The ceiling is low enough that a high right-hand backhand hyzer can't get high enough to get far enough left, and after the corner it's a random chance to miss all of the trees. From the short tees it's a little better, but there are still the same issues as the white tees. It's still far enough back to make it very difficult to get any distance around the corner. Removing some of the trees from the corner, even if it's only enough to get a reasonable shot to the basket from the white tees, is probably the best way to make this hole less needlessly punishing. Dishonorable mention here goes to hole 11, which has many of the same issues as hole 8 and is significantly longer, though the white tee placement for hole 11 is much more reasonable, which gives it the advantage over hole 8. Hole 11 does have a death putt with a potential 100-foot rollaway off the hill long, though, which adds a potential unlucky bounce off the basket, adding multiple strokes. The first and last holes are critical for introducing the course and leaving the last impression at the end of the round. Hole 1 is a very good starting hole. Though it is a bit on the long side, it is downhill, which makes up for it. The only issue I have with hole 1 as a first hole is that it's a par 3 that you can't see the basket off the tee, which is not ideal for your first throw of the day. Other than that, it does give a good idea preparing you for what to expect from the course as a whole. Hole 18 is an excellent last hole to end the round. It is uphill, so it plays longer than its 251-foot length. The basket location does an excellent job of adding a little flair and personality to the hole, as you're likely going to need to make at least a 15-foot putt to end the round, and it feels good to end the round making a good putt. It does make me want to play this course again. The only place I had any navigation issues between holes was getting from hole 11 to hole 12, and a large part of that was self-induced as I missed the green street sign indicating the direction of hole 12. In general, the signs are very well placed and it is easy to follow. On course, it's a bit difficult to know exactly where to go on a first-time playthrough on holes 8, 11, and 16, but even so, there's a good general idea of where you want your tee shot to end up. The difficulty of following the course was about the equivalent of making toast. There's a little bit of randomness involved in exactly how you want to get to your goal, but all you really need to do is keep an eye on it. This course is relatively safe for discs. The only time I spent looking for an errant disc was on hole 4, where I had a tree kick of a green disc into an area that I thought had green shrubbery, but it didn't bounce the direction I thought it did. Hole 3 is an issue if you go into the brush on the left, or possibly if you're short and end up in the swamp in the spring when it's particularly marshy there, but any throw over 150 feet or so will be safe. I did see someone go way into the swamp on hole 7 after their very strongly thrown drive went way left and somehow missed every tree and cleared the swamp from the short tee, but that's hard to do. The creek on hole 13 was dry, but I can see how in the spring it could be problematic. None of these affected how I played any of these holes. In general, this course is very safe for discs, and even when it is wet, How I play the course won't really be affected by whether or not I might lose a disc. Even where there are tree kicks, in general, there's a lot of open space where the discs are likely to end up, and only a few places where a disc might end up in deep brush. The tee pads are all concrete, consistent, and in good condition. Most of the tee areas also have old wire spools, benches, or both. They're easy to find and of good quality. The baskets are dynamic discs baskets with white banding and white baskets. In general, these are easier to see in person than they are in the video, as the lighting was inconsistent between the angle of the sun changing and the occasional clouds. My overall course rating for the Hollows North Disc Golf Course in Manchester, New Hampshire, is that I would be willing to drive 2.5 hours out of my way to play this course for the first time, and an hour and a half to play the course again. If you're playing both the North and the South courses as a giant 36-hole round, this would likely go up as well. I am interested to see what this looks like in the spring and to see how much additional wetness in the ground affects the course, but my suspicion is that it's not much. I will definitely play this course again. There are a few other courses within a half-hour drive, and there are only two that I have not played: Canberra Memorial Park in Raymond, New Hampshire, and Papa Michael Pines in Allenstown, New Hampshire. I do not believe either of these will be of the quality of the Hollows North. As a slight spoiler to my review of the Hollows South, I do prefer the North course to the South course. I also much prefer this course to Birch Park in Amherst, New Hampshire, link in the description, which I have reviewed previously. This is a course that is likely to end up on a semi-regular rotation of the courses that I play for fun when not filming, though this course can get busy on weekends, so I am most likely to play midweek. I hope you enjoyed my course review of the Hollows North and found the content more fulfilling than the hollowness that the name might suggest. Like, share, subscribe, and check out my other video linked here, or the playlist of my disc golf courses of New Hampshire linked in the description.